Hello and welcome to That Movie Show, where we review weird and wonderful movies from Netflix to the box office and everywhere in between. My name is Jason.
And I'm Kelly.
This episode is dedicated to remakes, redos and reboots. Tonight, Ellen Page, Diego Luna and Nina Dobrev perform near-death experiments in the sci-fi thriller Flatliners.
Also, Bill Skarsgård plays an evil clown named Pennywise in the 2017 remake of Stephen King's infamous horror novel, It.
And Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones team up in the 2016 supernatural comedy Ghostbusters.
But first up, based on Stephen King's best-selling novel of the same name, a shape-shifting monster disguised as a clown terrorises children in a small US town named Derry in the film called It.
When you're a kid, you think the universe revolves around you. You think that you'll always be protected and cared for. Then, one day, you realize that's not true. Because when you're alone as a kid, the monsters see you as weaker. You don't even know they're getting closer. Till it's too late. Here. Take it.
It is a supernatural horror film directed by Andy Muschietti, based on the 1986 novel of the same name by Stephen King. The film tells the story of 7 children who in the summer of 1989 band together to destroy a shape-shifting monster which disguises itself as a clown and preys on the children of Derry, their small Maine town, only to face their own personal demons in the process.
If you'll come with me, you'll float too.
George. I saw something.
The clown. Yeah, I saw him too.
What happens when another Georgie goes missing? Or one of us? Are you just gonna pretend it isn't happening like everyone else in this town? If we stick together, we'll win.
Directed by Andy Muschietti, screenplay by Chase Palmer and Kari Joji Fukunaga, and starring Bill Skarsgård, Finn Wolfhard, Jaden Lieber and Sophia Lillis. Jason, so firstly, if you haven't seen the original, where have you been for the last 18 years?
Agreed.
I wasn't happy about this remake because I didn't understand why they wanted to remake something that had a brilliant original, but I was wrong. Unlike a lot of the remakes coming out of late, they really stayed true to the original story, which I was happy with.
Indeed.
Bill Skarsgård was brilliant as Pennywise. I personally thought that he was better than Tim Curry.
Shock.
I know you don't agree with that. The rest of their characters were brilliantly cast as well.
I just have to quickly say that with Tim Curry and compared to Bill Skarsgård, you know, they both had their own certain merits. You know, I know you think Bill did a better job. You know, and I think Tim Curry did a fantastic job, and I just don't think Bill Skarsgård created as long a shadow as Tim Curry did. You know but like I said, we might have to wait and see till the next
one.
Film.
Yeah. Richie, played by Finn Wolfhard, better known from Stranger Things. He's got 4 new movies coming out in 2019, and I think he's going to be one to watch.
Definitely.
You know, Jeremy Ray Taylor played Ben's character, and I really felt for him as a kid that got picked on. You know, I thought he was really great cast in that role, and as I said, the whole cast was brilliant, and it really stood out from the original, where you know the acting was just impeccable by the kids. This movie really reminds me of how brutal high school can be.
Definitely.
All these kids have issues, be that pressure from their parents or neglected by their parents or, you know, pressure by overbearing parents, kids that are abused by their parents as well. What's great is that the geeks stand together against the bullies, and that's every kid's dream, to have that sort of support. I thought the cinematography was great. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was amazing. It was very slick, and that's thanks to the South Korean cinematographer Chung Hoon Chung. You know, his work really needs to be applauded. He did such an amazing job, and you know, he's done other films such as The Handmaiden, Stoker with Nicole Kidman.
Love that movie.
He did that film. He did another film called Thirst and another film called The Current War. So, you know, I think we'll definitely be seeing a lot more of his work in the future.
Oh, great. This film won 4 awards, believe it or not, 37 nominations, none of which are well known, but we don't expect a horror film to win a Golden Globe,
Unfortunately,
do we?
No.
You know, as we said, Chapter 2 will be out in 2019. Estimated budget for this film was 37 million, and yet they grossed over 700.
Wow, that's a tremendous achievement. And did you know that because of that figure, it is the most highest grossing horror film of all time.
Of all time, my God.
Yeah, to date, of course, you know.
Yep.
But we'll have to wait and see what Chapter 2 does. Maybe it tips it over.
Maybe it tips it over. So what else did you think?
You know, I thought, you know, I was thankful that this version of it wasn't a blow-by-blow redo of the original.
Yeah.
You know, there are of course some respectful nods to the original, such as the paper boat of doom scene at the beginning.
The bathroom scene as well, which was a lot more exaggerated in the remake. Yeah,
that nuclear explosion of blood that just went everywhere. You know, I thought that was fantastic. There was another nod in the film. I don't know if you noticed it, but in one of the scenes in the new version, you do cop a glimpse of Tim Curry's outfit that he wore in the original. You know, I think Muschietti has done a great job in doing something a bit new. He's discarded with the back and forward storylining.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite linear now, and it focuses solely on the youngsters. But you know, I assume the grown-up portion will be shown in Chapter 2.
Yeah.
You know, the new version of it also shifts the timeline. So instead of it being set in the original 60s setting, it's now been, you know, brought forward to the 80s. And we all know, you know, like Stranger Things, it's really hot right now.
It's very hot
right now to film back in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, just like the 90s version, you know, this current remake also dispenses of that bizarre preteen orgy scene. Now, have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
No, well, to be honest, I haven't either, but I did some research. And towards the end of the book, there's this bizarre scene where the teens are stuck in the sewer and they're trying to get out, and they need to remain united to get out. And so how Stephen King wrote it is that Beverly decides to have sex with all of the 6 boys. Controversial, I know.
Yep.
But apparently that worked, and after Beverly did that, they all sort of remembered that they took a wrong turn and they got out to safety. Now, could you imagine this scene on the big screen?
I don't think it would fit at all.
No. I can understand why a studio wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole. Yeah. So that's just a little quirky fact there. You know, I agree with you. The cast was amazing. All the young actors did such a great job, and I don't think there was one weak link at all in the Losers Club, and I'm sure we'll be seeing much more of them coming into the future.
Definitely.
And Pennywise, Skarsgård did do a fantastic job, even though I thought Tim Curry did it slightly better. But the design and the prosthetics that went into Skarsgård's character was amazing, like that cracked porcelain forehead and that mucky Victorian era outfit, and that giant protruding lip that he had, you know, with this constant bit of drool coming out. You know,
very unnerving.
Very unnerving and very nuanced as well. You know, I thought it was fantastic to watch. So, you know, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great remake, and I can't wait for Chapter 2. I give it 4 stars.
I give it 4 stars as well.
Way worse. We all float down here.
I saw something. There was this...
A clown. Yeah, I saw him too.
Look. It's all connected by the sewers. That's where it lives. What happened? Bill?
Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
It is currently available to rent or buy on Google Play. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break with the sci-fi thriller Flatliners. Welcome back to That Movie Show. Our next film is about 5 medical students who experiment with death and the afterlife in the sci-fi thriller remake of Flatliners.
Do you have plans tonight? Do you want to have fun with me later?
Courtney Holmes. I am mildly surprised, but offer accepted.
Midnight basement, sublevel C.
What's going on?
I would like you to stop my heart. You give it 1 minute, and then you bring me back.
Okay, now's the point where you say it's all a joke.
What happens to us after we die? The only way to find out is to see for ourselves. We could document that experience. Did you see a white light? It was more like pure energy. How is she playing the piano now? It's like her brain's been rewired.
I'm going next.
Charging 200.
It's a good day to die.
Clear?
Flatliners is a science fiction psychological horror film directed by Niels Arden Opelev and written by Ben Ripley. It follows 5 medical students who attempt to conduct experiments that produce near-death experiences. It soon turns into a living horror as those who flatline find themselves haunted by visions of the past. This film is a remake of the 1990 film of the same name.
Was there anything disturbing? Something is happening to us. I think I'm going crazy.
Maybe we opened a door.
Directed by Niels Arden Opelev and written by Ben Ripley, Flatliners stars Ellen Page, Diego Luna, Nina Dobrev, James Norton and Kiersey Clemens. Kelly, now I had plenty of puns ready for this film, but without sounding too much of a jerk, all I'm going to say is that this film arrived into cinemas DOA.
That's pretty harsh.
Dead on arrival. I know, brutal but true. What's interesting, and I don't know if you know this or not, did you know that this film was meant to be a sequel originally?
No, I didn't.
No, well, it was. I did some research and there was an interview that Kiefer Sutherland did with Metro magazine, and he was talking to the writer there, and he said that his character from the original Flatliners was going to start back in the remake, or the sequel, sorry, that his name has changed, and then he's done a few things to move on from the experiments that he did in Flatliners, in the original film. And, you know, I thought, wow, that would be really cool. You know, that sounds really intriguing. You know, it makes sense. Create a sequel, include Sutherland's character from the 1990s film as like a mentor that can give advice to these new young students about the dangers of flatlining. You know, and in doing so, like the film could acknowledge the past, but it could also push the plot along, and create some new development.
Give us something fresh.
Yes, exactly. Give us something new and fresh, you know, because I just felt it was just each scene was a complete redo. It's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but you know, it was like, well, here's the 1990s party around the fire scene. Oh, here's our new version of the party around the fire scene. And, you know, I just thought it could have just been a little bit more different. You know, listen, I thought Flatliners started strong, but, you know, it finishes rather dull. And all I have to say is that the original 1990 Flatliners should have had a do not resuscitate warning attached to it. Kellie.
Look, the original it's a total classic, you know. No doubt it was a launch pad for many of the actors' careers. Julia Roberts, you know, William Baldwin, Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon, you know, they're all big names. And they were nobodies when this came out. You know, another movie that I wasn't really sure if it should have been remade. I didn't totally hate it, but I agree with you know, a lot of what you're saying. I don't quite agree with your blow-by-blow account. I think it isn't a rehash. You know, I thought it was a bit more of a remake. The movie cost $20 million to make, and unfortunately, it only grossed 16 in America. So you know, it was a flop essentially.
It was a total bomb. And just quickly, can I just say that the film wasn't even pre-screened to critics, or there was no pre-screen audiences. It was just dumped straight into cinemas.
Just rush it out there. We don't care about the critics.
Which is not a good sign in my mind.
No.
And you know, they did have a great cast in it, and it's just a shame that, you know, it didn't elevate itself. Yeah,
look, definitely. Ellen Page, you know, we see her in Juno, and a lot of other quirky movies, and you know, there's a couple of other actors that are quite good. You know, I mean, look, it follows the same concept about people who flatline seem to be able to access untapped parts of the brain. You know, Courtney, played by Ellen Page, she remembers her grandmother's bread recipe. She can play the piano, and she hasn't played that after 12 years. She answers questions in class perfectly.
She can recall anything that she's ever learned.
Exactly.
In her life,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a really exciting prospect for the other characters, that they want this as well. They want to be able to go and experience the same thing. What I don't understand is why in both the first and second films we see characters haunt these flatliners that aren't dead yet.
Yeah,
you know,
that's weird.
That doesn't make sense to me. But it is what it is. You know, is it more about the subconscious and the guilt that we harbour there, and less about the afterlife? I don't know. Look, in the original we see Kevin Bacon bully a black girl in school. In the remake we see a black girl bully a Spanish woman at uni. So, you know, slightly different. It didn't follow the exact same, but, you know, it was reminiscent of the original. I love seeing Kiefer Sutherland in what I assumed was a cameo appearance.
As it turned out to be, I think it was.
Because there was no real link to the first one in his role there.
That storyline wasn't fleshed out at all, which as opposed to his interview they did with Metro, he clearly thought at the time
that this would be a sequel.
Yeah, but I think maybe some of his scenes and some of that dialogue that would make us think maybe it's just ended up on that cutting room floor.
Too hard. I think it was too hard to link it and make it truthful, so they've gone with a remake.
Yep, yep.
Look, I give Flatliners 2 stars.
I give it 1 star.
Something is coming for us. Something I did. Something I did. There! Defense just not stabilizing.
This experiment needs to end right now.
Clear! Wake up. I should have told you this wasn't about science or discovery.
Clear!
It's been over 4 minutes.
I did not know that the side effects would show up and start hunting us down. Clear!
This was my fault.
Flatliners is currently available to rent or buy on Google Play. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back after the break with the supernatural comedy Ghostbusters.
Hello and welcome back to That Movie Show. Our next film is a remake of the 80s cult classic Ghostbusters.
It will haunt you every night. Whatever it is, no one should have to encounter that kind of evil. Except you girls, I think you can handle it.
Oh, good, thanks. We have a gift. We see what no one else is willing to see. We do things others can't do.
Ghostbusters.
If there's a paranormal problem, we're the ones to answer the call.
Hello. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Ghostbusters Answer the Call is a supernatural comedy film directed by Paul Feig and written by Feig and Kate Dippold. Following a ghost invasion of Manhattan, paranormal enthusiasts Erin Gilbert and Abby Yates, nuclear engineer Gillian Holtzman, and subway worker Paddy Tolland band together to stop the otherworldly threat. It is the third feature film in the Ghostbusters franchise and serves as a reboot of the series. The story focuses on 4 women who begin a ghost-catching business in New York City.
Kevin, come inside!
I was born to be a Ghostbuster, all right? Oh, man, that's so not good.
Something big is gonna happen.
The word we're looking for is apocalypse.
You want a piece of this? Yeah!
Directed by Paul Feig and written by Kate Dippold and Paul Feig, starring Melissa McCarthy, Kirsten Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. So the original, made in 1984, that grossed just under $300 million US at the box office, which was more than the remake in 2016.
Well, that says something, doesn't it?
It definitely says something. Look, I wasn't expecting a lot from this movie. I'm not a die-hard fan of the original, like some people, but I know it's a classic. It's a classic, you know, that we grew up with. Another example of a redo of the story, it's not a true remake of Ghostbusters. As we said, it's the third in the series. But this one combines both the first and second Ghostbusters movies, showing how they formed as well as how they saved Manhattan. I did love the fact that they used females in this remake instead of males. That mixed it up a little bit.
And that also caused one hell of a avalanche of controversy.
Oh,
Did
really?
you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
So I think one of the early trailers of the new Ghostbusters got released, and I think it's one of the most disliked videos on YouTube.
Oh wow!
So it got hammered.
It got hated.
And there was a lot of acid, a lot of trolling, and I think it was uncalled for, really. And it got sledged really badly.
Wow.
And there was a lot of distaste going around even before the film came out because of that, because they.
I think because it's so well loved and.
Yeah, and the original, and I'll talk about it in a moment, but the original 4 male actors, they did really create something that was hard to follow. Yeah. But anyway, so continue. Sorry.
Look, I was going to say, is it better than the original? In my opinion, yes, it is. I thought it had an incredibly funny cast. You know, Kirsten Wiig and Melissa McCarthy are both amazing, both from Bridesmaids.
Yes, yes. And yeah, speaking of Bridesmaids, McCarthy, she was on Bridesmaids, The Heat and Spy, who was also directed by Paul Feig as well.
Oh, wow.
So they've worked together before.
I see.
So yeah, bit of a comedy duo, I think.
Special mention goes to Kate McKinnon. I thought she really stole the show. I thought she was really witty and funny in this role. Chris Hemsworth plays a receptionist. He plays a total himbo, which is a juxtaposition from the original receptionist. You know, she's not seen as a sex object. She's quite nerdy and intelligent, and he's just dumb throughout the whole movie.
And I think he was just too hyper retarded and too unbelievable. Yeah. I know it's a comedy, and I know it's not meant to be real, but he was just, the way he was written, his character was just too stupid in my liking.
Agreed,
to ever really connect at all with, yeah.
Very unenjoyable to watch. Bill Murray gets wheeled in for his cameo, and it's great to connect with the old characters, as does the receptionist and Dan Aykroyd play their little bits. I didn't like the remake of the song. I thought they should have just left it as the original.
Probably copyright issues, maybe they couldn't.
Probably. The special effects are so much better in this one. But yet they keep in the same theme of the original effects, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Look, Slimer enters late. He doesn't really offer a lot to the movie, but it was great to see him. Jason, what else did you think about it?
Well, you know, it's definitely funnier than the original. Yeah. I'll give it that. But I don't think Feig does enough to innovate on what has come before. You know, and it's no fault of the 4 women actors. You know, it's not their fault. You know, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson from the original. They created such iconic characters that it's in some ways they're just way too hard to surpass.
Yeah.
And they also have this massive fan base, which the film had to deal with before the film came out. You know, all the trolling and all the online hate that came towards it. And like you said, all the actors from the previous film were all wheeled out, except for Harold Ramis, who's passed on. He played Egon.
Which is very
in the original,
sad.
So he couldn't get wheeled out. But everyone got wheeled out, and by doing so, it's, you know, you're not letting the audience forget in a way. You're not letting them move on because you're like, oh, here's everyone from the previous films. So how can you really take the movie in a new direction if you're doing that? And I thought that was a little bit annoying. You know, even the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man gets a cameo.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, hello? You know, obviously, I think the only reason why he's done that is it's like a desperate nod to those hardcore fans, you know. Oh, you know, I'm trying to appease everyone. So, you know, do the all-female cast, but hey, here's everyone else from the original films.
To keep it comfortable.
To keep it comfortable, but I think it's just, yeah, it just went too far. You know, like I said, there wasn't enough innovation. So, you know, the jumpsuits are practically the same, the backpacks, the logos, the converted hearse, you know. It's just the same as their counterparts in the originals. You know, they could have had different outfits. They could have had, you know, different backpacks, different guns, or they could have done a slightly different twist on it.
Yeah.
You know, and they didn't do that. You know, I guess I'm a little surprised that Fegg and co-writer Dippold, you know, they had an opportunity to take the franchise on a different trajectory, but unfortunately they fell short. You know, they had a real chance to do something like that in this time around. In saying that though, there was some interesting new, better, improved ghost-busting toys, which I thought were pretty cool.
That was pretty cool,
so
yeah.
They were pretty cool, and that was great to see those. You touched on the CGI. God, it was the most CGI-heavy thing that I've seen in a long time. And, you know, unfortunately, Fegg has become another victim of the digital effects era. You know, when a computer can conjure up just about anything, a good director should know when to stop. And, you know, I just think there was just way too much CGI used in this, especially in the closing scene.
Yeah.
You know, we lose a bit of the dialogue, and you lose a bit of the comedy because all they're doing, they're just so busy fighting all these CGI ghosts that the film falls a bit short there, I think, you know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the finale, like it begins with, there's a funny possession gag that starts it off. Like McCarthy's character and Hemsworth, they get possessed by a ghost. Yeah. And that, you know, that's quite funny. But then it spirals out of control, and it's just CGI ghost after CGI ghost, and it just becomes too much. You know, it's a bit eye-watering in my opinion. Just quickly, speaking of the cameos, even Sigourney Weaver gets wheeled out.
That's right, she does.
But that was at the end, though. She was one of those when the credits roll, and you know, and I thought that was such a waste of Weaver, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're going to use her, bring her in earlier. You know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a bit of a waste. There, it was great to see Sigourney in it. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought it was just a waste having her right at the end. You know, hey, it was an enjoyable watch. And like I said, I got a lot of laughs over it, so I'll give Ghostbusters 3 stars.
I also give it 3 stars.
The government's trying to claim the event isn't supernatural.
We don't want a panic. We don't want mass hysteria.
Get out of the city! Get out of the city!
I will kick the unliving crap out of you, and you, especially you! Hey! Don't move!
You got a,
No, I'm tired.
No, listen.
I'm just gonna go ahead and take off. How about that?
I don't really think that's a good idea.
No. Going to take off. Don't piss off the ghost. Really?
Ghostbusters is available to rent or buy on Google Play. Before we wrap up, Kelly, you wanted to say a few words about the remakes that are coming up?
I did, you know, why do we have more and more remakes coming out? Is it that Hollywood are being more risk adverse and they're not wanting to follow original storylines anymore.
I think that's the case.
Probably. We're going to see almost 40 remakes come out in 2018.
40?
40. These include classics that should not be touched, such as The Crow, Scarface, Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street again. And look, a classic for me, an 80s classic, Overboard. They're remaking that. That did star Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell.
That's right.
The remake flips the roles with a woman picking up a man that has amnesia and making him do, you know, her bidding, basically. Starring Anna Faris, which is really sad for me. It hits our screens in the next couple of months, and I really wish they would have left that one alone.
What's up with... that's really annoying is when they make a reboot or a remake and all they do is just switch the genders of the characters around. Like, come on, you know.
Yeah.
You need to put in a bit more effort.
A little bit more.
Do something a bit more, you know. Sorry, continue.
I was going to say the last one that I will mention is Space Odyssey 2001.
What?
They're remaking that. That hits our screens very soon.
Oh, that's sacrilegious.
It is.
They should not be touching that at all. You know, I think it's very sad when Hollywood, you know, either they're risk adverse or you know, they don't want to put money into anything new. There are so many books out there, because you're a reader.
Yep, there are lots of books.
Lots of unique individual stories.
Yep.
that would look great on the silver screen, but instead they're pumping all their money into rehashing or remaking films that probably should be best left alone.
Agreed.
Such a shame, but very interesting indeed. So thank you for joining us. That's all we have time for on today's show. We hope to see you here next week, same time on The Movie Show.